your mind.
All right, time for us to go behind the headlines, and I got this headline in our local newspapers. Longview, Washington's not very far from here, and it's the story of the Longview Police raiding a collective or a dispensary or MWIO, whatever you want to call it, in Longview, or actually Kelso, which is kind of near Longview, and it was called Grassroots. Some people were running a dispensary out of their home, and they were selling and delivering marijuana to customers. Then the cops brought in some snitches, or as they call them, confidential informants, and coerced them to buy some of Grassroots' weed. That, of course, gave them the search warrant they needed to execute their raid last week. Well, here's the idiocy of it all. You remember that Washington State legalized marijuana, right? And that they've had medical marijuana for 15 years, right? Okay. Well, in the raid, Longview Police found 25 plants growing out back in a barn. They arrested 4 adults. Now, in Washington State, up to 10 patients can collectively grow up to 45 plants. But somehow 25 marijuana plants are dangerous if you're not sick. The police also seized a pound of marijuana. If just one of those 4 adults is a medical marijuana patient, he or she can legally be holding 1.5 pounds. If it's a collective garden, they can hold up to 4.5 pounds. But somehow a pound of marijuana is dangerous if you're not sick. But they were selling and delivering marijuana. It's not even legal under I-502. The cops also seized a whopping $4,366 in cash from these alleged marijuana kingpins. Wow. Come this time next year, Washington State will have implemented the will of their voters, that said by a majority that the production, buying, and selling of marijuana should be a legal operation. And right now even, collective gardens are allowed to recoup their costs from their members, including monetary donations for expenses. But this selling of marijuana by adults to other adults who wish to willingly purchase it, that's a crime? That's a crime we got to stop at all costs in a state that just passed landmark marijuana legalization, that has working groups right now discussing the rules and regulations of how we're going to buy and sell marijuana? In a state where collective gardens can have 45 plants and can have 4.5 pounds of marijuana, we're really going to put a lot of time and energy into this, huh? Well, apparently we are. If you can see behind me, this is a picture from the raid, and I looked in that picture and I could count 3 cops, at least, that were involved in the raid. This is from the Grassroots Facebook page, by the way. I've got all the links up at my blog at radicalruss.com if you'd like to follow up on this yourself. I counted at least 3 cops, but there was probably more. And you figure, the time that they've got to set up the CIs, the snitches, the time they got to, process and all the information, the time they got to set up, they got to get the warrants, they got to arrest these people, book them, fingerprint them, take their mug shots, put the mug shots up on the internet forever, right? That's got to take some time and some cop energy, I imagine. Well, I looked up the Longview Police Department because, that's what I do. I look stuff up. And the salary for a starting rookie police officer at the Longview Police Department is $22.30 an hour. A 5-year veteran officer makes $25.23 an hour. And a sergeant starts at $29.26 an hour. So that $4,366 in cash they seized is a little less than the salary of 5 rookie cops on a 40-hour work week. You want to bet they put more than 40 hours of cop time into this? And don't forget, a lot of those are base starting salaries. They get all sorts of $1,500 annual bonus if they do this thing, and $1,200 annual bonus if they have this amount of time and if they've done this thing and so forth. Again, I got the links at my blog at radicalruss.com if you want to see what you can make as a Longview Police Department officer. So to summarize, let's wrap it all up in a bow here. The Longview Police Department spent an unknown amount of man-hours investigating and setting up people who had well below the legal plant limit for a collective, well below the marijuana limit for a collective, because they were selling marijuana, an activity that will be legal next year and is somewhat legal now for medical users, and selling to people who would smoke and possess it, which is legal right now. Now, in case you're wondering, Longview, Washington, compared to similar Washington cities, has more homicides, more forcible rapes, more aggravated assaults, more burglaries, more larcenies, more car thefts, and more arsons than the average of similar Washington cities. But they are below average on robberies. Got to give them that. So if this is a problem for you, and it's certainly a problem for me, I would urge you to visit my blog at radicalruss.com. I've got that link to the Longview Police Department, and just ask their public information officer why we're spending all this time. I've got a Freedom of Information request in right now to find out exactly how much officer time they did spend on this particular raid with Grassroots, which, judging by the fact that they've got these people, and the number of the people, and if they've got medical recommendations, and if it's a collective, a prosecution that could likely go nowhere. How much time and money did they spend on this? We will keep you updated right here at radicalruss.com and let you know just as soon as we know. All right, before we take a break, I wanted to quickly remind everybody about our schedule next week. This time next week, we won't have a live show because I'll be flying to Atlanta, Georgia to take part in the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference. Going to be a good time down there. Sabrina Fendrick from Normal Women's Alliance will be there. Diane Goldstein from LEAP will be there. Chief Greenbud will be performing. It's going to be a lot of fun. The folks from Peachtree Normal will be there. Georgia Moms for Marijuana, and so forth. You can find information about that at my Facebook page, also on my blog at radicalruss.com. All that information is available. Just check out peachtreenormal.org. Also, real quick, well, I guess not real quick, because we got to take a break. Liebermeter's early again. What's up with that, Brian?
I don't know, man. It's she says it's mandatory.
I guess the kind of day I'm having wouldn't hurt to start early. We'll be right back.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Yeah, I watch MTV all the time. They have the Rock Against Drug commercials, that whole campaign. These guys have, slid into fucking school buses and killed 20 children, Rather than a facial license, they made a public service announcement. Yeah, no shit. Yeah. I love these guys that is hello, listen, don't get caught with drugs or you'll have to do a commercial just like this one. I think I found the message. The message is don't get caught.